thank everyone for joining us as we begin this year's departmental budget discussions. I don't see any council members with us yet. I think Council Lady Vercher missed her flight, but otherwise would be here with us. I'm Mayor David Briley, and I'm here with my Chief of Staff, Emily Pacini, and the city's Finance Director, Talia Lomax O'Neill. Before we start, just a few things I'd like to say about last year's budget. The process we had last year and the budget that resulted in it was certainly not what we all wanted, and it was under unusual circumstances, but everybody tightened their belts, which I appreciated very much. And as a result of the work that we all did in the last year, we're in a better revenue picture this year and are going to have the resources necessary to give our Metro employees a 3% COLA in this year's budget. So everybody who works for Metro is going to get a pay raise this year. With the COLA and the step increases and the open range increases that we're going to be giving our employees, they'll get the appreciation they deserve as public servants. Our first budget presentation this year is with District Attorney General Glenn Funk. Welcome this morning. Before you begin, General Funk, I'd like to publicly applaud you and your team for some of the work you've done in the last year, in particular in focusing on human trafficking, which I know you've put a lot more resources into in the last 12 months. As a result of your leadership, our city is staying on the forefront when it comes to challenging issues like this that face our community. I think Sarah Wolfson is the assistant district attorney, who's leading that effort, and just want to say thanks for all of her work as well. So, General Funk, if you would introduce the folks you brought with you this morning, and if you'll leave a little bit of time for questions at the end, we'd certainly appreciate that too.
Great. I brought with me today Michael Brook. He's been our Chief Financial Officer for over 30 years in the District Attorney's Office. I've also got with me Nancy White, who's working with Mr. Brook in our Finance Department. I was able to recruit her away from the Tennessee District Attorney's Conference, where she has worked for a number of years, and she's already paying great dividends with regards to the way she's working with the books and the way we're interfacing with the state office. So that's been really good. Thank you for acknowledging the work that we're doing with human trafficking. We're also expanding in areas with regards to elder abuse. Our office took the lead in rewriting the Tennessee Code with regard to elder abuse law. It's been implemented about 70% through the state legislature. We've got an Assistant District Attorney, Brittany Flatt, who is currently working doing elder abuse. We had projected 3 years ago that we would need 3 ADAs. She's doing the work of 3 ADAs. Currently, we reviewed over 900 referrals from the Adult Protective Services last year, and she's doing a fantastic job in keeping that organized, meeting with a VAPIT team, a Vulnerable Adult Prosecution Investigation team, doing wonderful work there. On top of handling, our office handled 60 to 80,000 criminal charges last year. Roughly 2,500 to 3,000 were cases that were so serious they needed to be indicted. We've been handling those in the criminal courts in Davidson County and really focusing on violent crime and trying to work to make sure that the community is safe from the people who are committing violent acts against the citizens of Davidson County. While we've been doing that, we've been working with the Public Defender's Office, with the Sheriff's Department, with the Police Department, with the General Sessions judges to try to make sure that incarceration is a severe sanction that is only for those folks who need that type of deterrence and need to be incapacitated from committing future crimes. We have worked with the Sheriff's Department on a steering clear program that has seen 4,000 driver's license cases dismissed, and at the same time all 4,000 of those individuals have been able to be serviced in a way to where they leave the courthouse with a checklist, a laundry list of things they have to do to get their driver's license, and we've seen hundreds of folks get their driver's license, which is good for all of us to have licensed drivers driving. We've worked with the General Sessions judges, the Sheriff's Department, and Public Defender's Office in trying to work on bail reform. We've been successful in reducing the number of misdemeanors that require a cash bond, and we've been able to lower the amount of time in jail for the individual misdemeanor that has had to be incarcerated prior to having their case disposed. All this has seen tremendous savings to the system, both in less files being created for the clerk's office, less cases going through the court system for the judges to have to deal with, less burdens on the citizens for fewer times coming to court, less court costs being owed, less collateral consequences for these issues that they have that aren't really criminal in nature, especially not violent in nature. So we've been doing a lot of things. We've seen incarceration rate for driving on a revoked license go from a high of 18,000 back 6 or 7 years ago, 18,000 inmate days in jail per year, down to less than 200 last year. We've seen incarceration rates for simple possession of marijuana drop from around 5,000 inmate days in jail just 3 or 4 years ago down to a little over 1,000 last year. And we're doing that by offering opportunities to have treatment, offering opportunities to essentially be held accountable and recognize that that's not a healthy activity, in a way to try to make sure that folks are healthy in the future but not tie up the criminal justice system on minor offenses that are not don't have any victim impact. If I can move forward to our budget, what was printed out from your office indicated that we actually got $200,000 less in fiscal year 19 than fiscal year 18. That's because so far we have not gotten the adjustment for benefits, but that'll probably end up coming in at roughly the exact same number. So it's not really that we got a decrease last year from the year before, because it's really going to be pretty much the same. Going forward next year, I've been talking about this for several years now. And the number one issue that we have is salary adjustments. Some now 6 or 7 years ago, Mayor Dean started a pay study for all Metro employees. And he told my predecessor, Tory Johnson, that when the adjustments came in, that the district attorneys would be taken care of at the same time. Our office has roughly 40 state-paid assistant district attorneys and roughly 25 Metro assistant district attorneys. But when the pay adjustments came through, the district attorneys did not get any additional benefits. And I think, Mayor, you were the vice mayor at the time, and I don't think that was intentional, that the public defenders would all of a sudden start making close to $60,000 when the district attorneys were starting out at $45,000. But correct me if I'm wrong, that wasn't intentional on the part of the council, was it? Or the mayor's office?
I have zero knowledge of that at that point in time, because the budget would have been prepared by the then mayor, and as vice mayor, I'm sure I wouldn't even have paid that much attention to it.
Well, we've paid attention to it in the district attorney's office. And I don't think it was intentional either, but I think it was a gross oversight some 3 years ago. And so under the 2 years ago, the council amended the mayor's budget and essentially gave the district attorneys an additional $5,000. But what that did was it decreased the gap by not quite half, but it was appreciated. Under your current budget, under projections, the assistant public defenders who represent citizens who are charged with crimes, with your 3% cost of living adjustment, will start out, we project at $64,949. Assistant district attorneys, who are also new lawyers, their entry-level position would pay $51,310 plus the $5,000 appropriated by the council 2 years ago, making it $56,310, a gap of $8,639. Just to make sure that everybody understands, if someone breaks into my home tonight and is charged with aggravated burglary, what our city and state say that a district attorney should make at an entry-level position is $56,310. But if that person gets a public defender to represent them, then what the county pays to the public defender who's representing the person who broke into my house is $64,909, $8,600 more. We had proposed essentially what's mandated by the statute, by the Tennessee legislature, a state plus 10, so that Metro would contribute $10,000 toward the state, which would end up still with about a $3,600 gap. But because of the way that the steps work under the state system versus the steps work under the Metro system, we can start out a little bit behind, and then the steps will end up equalizing. And let me say, public defenders are important members of the legal system, right? And some of the best lawyers in the whole city are in the public defender's office. And it is important that we have a strong public defender's office. But I think the district attorney's office is the most important law firm for the people of Tennessee, and especially for the people in Nashville, because we're charged with making sure the community's safe, making sure the community's healthy, making sure that the system is run in a way that is fair, and we've been working really hard to do that. And when assistant district attorneys have to work 4 or 5 years before they're making the same salary that an entry-level public defender is, it's not right, it's not fair, and in fact, it can lead to attrition in our office. I mean, in our office within the last few months, I've lost somebody to the TDOC for more money. I've lost somebody to the Department of Safety for more money. The mayor's office hired one of the best assistant district attorneys in history, Marcus Floyd, and you were wise to recruit him, but it was a big loss to us. But part of that was because of salary. And so it is really, really important to me that it ends up in the budget a way for us to narrow this gap. We are the only community in the country that pays our public defenders more than our district attorneys. I agreed with Metro as we worked very hard 20 years ago to make sure public defenders were paid the same as district attorneys, but that balance needs to, we need to have our system come back in balance. And it's not I don't see it as giving the district attorneys raises, the assistant district attorney raises. What I see is correcting an oversight from 3 to 4 years ago. The other adjustments that we are asking for, the judges created a new 5D docket, which I think was wise on their part, that will reduce docket size. It will allow for more criminal dockets to be scheduled. That will lead to less wait time for citizens who are the victims of crime. It'll allow for victim witness staffers to be able to make sure that our witnesses get to court, testify, and are able to get back to work. But it also creates extra staffing needs. Because there are actually 2 dockets running in 5D, we need 2 additional positions. So we've added that in there. In addition, the step raises require, we have to pay by state statute a certain amount for every year of service. Some years, because some older folks who've been in office for 20 years retire, and I can replace them with entry-level folks, that number is less. In some years it's more. We project roughly $75,900 for folks as they continue their step raises to be able to make sure that we are able to pay all of the assistant district attorneys the same amount of money, whether they're paid by Metro or paid by state. In some years that number is going to be a lot lower, but this is what we project for next year. Legal contract obligations, we have office lease in Washington Square building. Per the contract, that number is going to go up by $39,000. The VOCA contract extension increase, that $23,900 was approved. We actually get a match to where we're getting over $60,000 federal dollars by spending $23,900 in Metro dollars. That was approved, but then in the final budget last year it was not funded, and but luckily, by cooperation with the Office of Family Safety, we were able to keep that person employed, but that was kind of a one-time swap of funds between our office and the Office of Family Safety. But I appreciate the mayor's office, and I appreciate Diane Lance in the Office of Family Safety for helping us make sure that we could keep that victim witness coordinator, whose special job is to work with victims from underserved populations. The office lease fourth floor expansion is, a year and a half ago, we started work on making sure that the grand jury room was on the fourth floor instead of the fifth floor, where it would not be confused as an extension of our office, even though we are responsible for providing their space. And that would complete that fourth floor expansion that we started a year and a half ago. And victim witness transportation, domestic violence victims are especially vulnerable. The pressures that they have to not come to court are great, both in just occasional threats from their abuser, sometimes from other pressures within the family, sometimes because if they come from a population that may not have their own transportation to get downtown. Sometimes they can't come down to meet with us right after the arrest. Sometimes they can't even make it to court. We have a vehicle, and we need this fleet addition because we need to be able to make sure that folks have rides to be able to meet and give them the services and make sure that they can get to court. That's $2,800. The big number is the body-worn camera installation and deployment. Staffing without benefits, building and infrastructure is $23,98,700. Potential contingent Washington Square first floor lease, building and infrastructure, if we're going to house them permanently, not on a lease, it would be over $5 million, so that's $8 million total. But of that, by the time you put in the benefits, it would be a recurring of about $4 million. So the grand total for this year, before you get to body cameras, is $760,000, but the grand total, once we actually deploy our body cameras, is $8.8 million. Going to the suggestions for the blue ribbon panel, there is not, I'm proud to say that there is not any real fat that we can cut out of our office. We are being extremely good stewards of the funds that have been allocated by Metro and by the state. Almost all of that is used on personnel. We do not see revenue in our office. We are not prosecuting for profit. We are not trying to make money off of the backs of citizens who find themselves charged with crimes and convicted of crimes. Under what was printed up, cost avoidance, it says non-deployment of the body-worn cameras would save $8 million, $8.8 million. I understand that we are committed to body cameras. You have made that clear since your first day in office. And I'm all in favor of getting the best evidence possible to make sure that people who've committed crimes are convicted, and if somebody did not commit a crime, then I'm confident that the body-worn camera footage will show that. We were asked, how in the world could we save any money? I don't want to cut a ton of personnel. The only thought was if Metro was in fact going forward at the time, or was this something that was going to be phased in, whether it was phased in over the next year with a few dollars associated, whether it was something where we were going to deploy in the cars but not on the bodies of officers. That would save roughly 30 to 40% if we phased it in, where phase one was the cars and phase two maybe next year was the body cam, the actual body cams on the lapels. But from working very diligently with your office, with the police department, and with all stakeholders in body cameras, it seems to me that we are going forward this summer. And so with that, then I don't have a whole lot of suggestions as far as what cuts could come from our office with regard to saving money for Metro, other than the initiatives that we've been working on with the Public Defender's Office, with the judges, and with the sheriff. And we've already got those in place. but we're also always looking for best practices from around the country to see if there are other ways where we could make important savings.
So if we went, you have questions, Emily? It's all you? Okay, me go first. Well, going back to the salary issue to start with, I mean, I think we're in that situation to a certain degree because of Nashville's leadership, I guess, 50 years ago, when there were no public defenders really in the state, and the city of Nashville started the first public defender's office probably in the state, or at least we were.
Memphis was first, but we were second.
We were second. And so they all started as Metro employees, I think.
That's correct.
And so at that time, the state was funding the district attorneys and the city was funding the public defenders. And so as we've grown as a city and become more of a common practice, or actually a mandated practice to have public defenders, we've just stuck with them all being Metro employees. So they've just sort of, and at the same time, the state has continued to fund at an inappropriately low level the district attorneys for everywhere across the state, and we do supplements here in Nashville to help with that. We have local money. But I certainly share your sense that if you're starting as a district attorney or you're starting as a public defender, you're basically starting around the same place in your career as a lawyer, and you ought to be paid about the same amount. I'd certainly share that sense with you, and we're going to look real closely this year at trying to figure out a way to make that happen for the district attorneys here in Nashville. In the long run, I think we need to look more comprehensively at pay for all Metro employees. So although it won't happen this year, in the next year or the following year, we'll look comprehensively at what everybody's getting paid and try and make sure that we're providing adequate salaries for everybody who works for Metro, including all the lawyers who are a part of the Metro enterprise. So some patience, I guess, I'm going to ask for in that context, but I do share your sense that it's appropriate to pay those attorneys the same. Who are starting at doing more or less the same job with probably more or less the same amount of expertise or experience at least when they start.
Metro has supplemented the district attorney's office since the beginning of Metro.
Yeah.
The state has never provided enough, and the state falls woefully short of its obligations to the public defender's office. Currently, Metro has stepped up and is doing the right thing by the citizens accused who cannot afford a lawyer. Some $8.5 million, I believe, was their budget last year. Only $7.5 million was our budget from Metro. We get slightly more funding than that from the state, whereas their state funding is nowhere close to that, and that's a real problem for the state. And so thank goodness that Metro citizens have stepped up for the good of the public defender's office. But that still takes us to the part of, are we going to support the people who are working to try to keep the community safe at the same level that we're going to support the lawyers that are working to represent the citizen accused? And I don't see any real reason for the disparity. I think it's something that was supposed to have been done 3 years ago. We took one step forward 2 years ago, and then we did not make any steps forward last year. And I'm trying to recruit and maintain the best office in the state. And that is a real challenge for the individuals in our office. And I want to make sure that as a community we recognize them.
I wish our conversation would be the only time that I would have where I would be saying that we wish the state did more, but it won't be. I mean, we'll have plenty of conversations in the next few weeks where we ask the state to do more. But as I said, I do share your sense that we ought to get to a point where there's equivalence between the starting salaries.
Well, I think it should have been done 3 years ago. I appreciate every step that goes forward.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of the discussion around the elder abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think you had mentioned to me that the state had approved one position and is funding that position, but there's a need for 3. So going along that same line of, is the state going to step up to fund the other needs, or is the long-term plan, you think, going to be that Metro needs to be having conversations with you about additional funding for elder abuse?
Last year, the governor approved 7 new assistant district attorney positions across the state, for the whole state, 7 new assistant district attorney positions. Because of the work that we had been doing with elder abuse and because of the high volume that we see, I was able to convince the folks that make these allocations to give us one of those coveted 7 positions, and we were able to assign that person to do the elder abuse. I don't think that in the current budget there are any new assistant district attorney positions across the state. So at least in the near future, the answer is no, I don't see any help on the horizon from the state for what I think is a very basic component of government. But I'm not asking for 2 extra positions in elder abuse for fiscal year 20 because we're seeing how many of those referrals actually turn into cases generated. And I don't want to come until I can demonstrate the need to the mayor and to the finance department. And if we can find ways to have the elder abuse district attorney work with the financial abuse district attorney in a way that can cover this, then we will not ask for that. If the numbers get to be so high, then we very well might be back here next year saying we need an extra position allocated for elder abuse. Elder abuse isn't just financial abuse, because there are a lot of elder abuse cases that are financial abuse. It's also physical abuse, and sickeningly is sexual abuse too. So we're seeing all across the spectrum.
Is there a relationship there with the Office of Conservatorship? With that work at all? Is there any overlap?
There is overlap with them, and then they interface with Adult Protective Services, and then they are also able to come to the VAPIT meetings, which we schedule every month, to report anything that might be inappropriate in any of those areas.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you.
Thank your team.
Thank you.